I'm Sue Rose, and welcome to the Many Voices, Enfolding Dialogue into the Culture of Education, presented by the Leadership Forum Community's lab team. And I'm a member of Leadership Forum Community, and I'm very grateful to be here with you all today. Let's start off with a quick etiquette notion that will give you a better view of this. If you want to hover over your view box in the upper right-hand corner of your Zoom screen and click it and select Speaker View. That will make this an optimal experience for everybody. Okay, let's take a second to do that. There should be a little box that says speaker, view, excuse me. And then if you left click on that view box, you've got a few selections, select speaker view. Okay.
And you're on mute as well, unless you make a desk noise, your face will appear.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, so after each annual summit of the Leadership Forum community, like we're having today, labs form. And they form out of an interest that people in the community have kind of been sparked by in the summit. Well, this year there's 4 labs that have been going. One is democratizing leadership and education. There's unlearning racism and women in leadership, and our little lab called Dialogue, Creating Common Meaning. Today, we're presenting a shared dream with you. It's the potential of a unique form of dialogue our lab has been studying that was created in the last century by David Bohm, who was a physicist. And Bohm's dialogue invites a very deep listening and a way of just being together. It allows us to have more openness and trust, and invites deep listening in a way of just keeping us more present. During the year, the Education Lab got wind of some of what we were doing through our monthly meetings, and they just asked to kind of have a look at it more closely and requested a workshop. So we did a workshop on dialogue with them. And they found this could be a very potent tool in reaching youth and addressing very meaningful issues in their lives in the context of education. So the voices you are going to hear today are participants from all the various labs who have now experienced dialogue. And they're going to share how it impacted them personally, as well as a vision that they're able to start seeing for its use in education. So we might envision this method of dialogue as a circle of quiet, kind of creating a space where we can experience more openness in ourselves, even patience, wonder, imagination. It tends to foster confidence in ourselves while also a trust in others, kind of a both and. Our small lab of 7 people in dialogue creating common meaning has represented 4 countries, 3 continents, and has people ranging in age from 27 to 79. We've been noticing it's kind of been like a slow communal discovery as we've met weekly since last November. In dialogue, we're just simply thinking together and absorbing new skills that we've realized in how to just be with other people. We've come to view it as a practice with many applications, including a service to humanity that comes through how we explore the topics. So we invite you in this session today to discover how this form of dialogue may benefit your own development and also your work. So how is this done? Well, in dialogue, we follow 4 basic guidelines outlined by Bohm, whose science, he was a physicist, so he studied subatomic particles, just like this morning, Helena was talking about the quantum field. And that was his realm too. And he noticed how coherently particles moved in that realm. And he decided if he could get our thoughts to move coherently and mirror that, it might actually help human beings. And he had this hunch that by focusing on thought, it could benefit human understanding. I found his booklet on dialogue at the Center for Creative Leadership's bookstore about 30 years ago, and it's been with me ever since. Now, others in our dialogue group have also noticed connections with things like mindfulness, presence, and active listening. We are going to show you now a slide with the 4 general guidelines that dialogue has been used, emanating it from David Bohm's suggestions. And the first guideline is no agendas. The second, no assumptions. Thirdly, suspending judgment. And fourth, listening for the common meaning in our different perspectives. So for example, in our weekly meetings, we would do this as a process. We'd first choose a topic to dialogue about. It would happen in 1 minute. We could pick a topic, wasn't hard. Something simple like, what is friendship, or what is authority? We found questions were good dialogue topics. And then we would have this feeling that it was good to just let the spirit move each of us to talk, and nobody felt compelled they had to share. It was very fluidly organic. But then we agreed to also insert a 7 to 10 second pause between each speaker. This completely changed the tone and intentionality. After finishing dialogue, we would then process the experience. We've all found ourselves kind of immersed in this kind of free play of thought and creativity predicted by Bohm. So when we practice suspending thoughts as we talked with each other, it didn't only mean suspending judgment of our thoughts or others' thoughts, or debating a point, which we tried to avoid, or being brief, which we tried to do, but it was like throwing our thoughts up in the air as if they were pieces of a puzzle and letting them stay there, suspended. So through the dialogue, we could look for that common thread of meaning that might be flowing through it, which revealed a more completed point of view to us by the time we were finished dialoguing. So in our minds, dialogue has an infinite potential for ourselves as well as for others in society. You know, David Bohm said that the dialogue he designed was not really designed to solve problems, but more to soften us up, melting the hardness of the heart. His science revealed a universe characterized by wholeness, like Helena was talking about, and not fragmentation, that everything is connected. So just a reminder for this next piece where we're going to hear some voices, make sure that you're muted and you're still on speaker view, because this will make it much more meaningful. So today we have these 6 voices from our Leadership Forum lab team, representing all the 4 labs, who have experienced either a 1-hour workshop of dialogue or who are from our little dialogue lab. And they're going to share a couple things with us. Again, the personal impact dialogue had on them, and their vision for its impact on youth and the potential to change the whole culture of education. So we'd like you to imagine something before they start. Let's just imagine that these 6 voices are in a circle of quiet. This won't be an actual dialogue because they've already prepared their remarks, but it will have elements of dialogue woven into it. Things like brevity, staying open, listening, and reflecting. And we, as the observers and listeners of the dialogue, get to kind of use those pauses between the speakers to try practicing these elements. Are we staying open? Are we not jumping to conclusions or judgments? Are we reflecting? Are we listening for that common thread of meaning? And we might ask ourselves, what new insight may I be having? What new experience might I be having right now? And at the close of this section, we'll have time to reflect and share our experiences with each other. So let's begin.
Hi, I'm Sherry Welsh. I'm part of the Women in Leadership Lab, and I'm located in Charleston, South Carolina, in the United States. The impact that I experienced while doing dialogue was one of feeling truly heard, of having space to open up and be connected totally non-judgmentally with the others in the room. I found I had different ideas appearing in the moment compared to what I thought I should answer. And I didn't have the pressure to one-up the other answers that were being shared or the other comments. What I've seen as a benefit for education when we talk about this dialogue process, this dialogue experience, I see kids today comparing themselves. They live in a world of comparison through social media. The pressure that they're under is much different than when it was as I was growing up. I see many can benefit from the open-mindedness that comes from dialogue, from the no pressure to be better or compare with others, just simply being in the moment. So they're going to open up to different ideas and feel honored and heard. their own voice being expressed. I think that's brilliant for education today. And one last one is homeschooled children, the remote experience. They can also feel connected and part of the whole just by having the dialogue experience, even from home. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Eileen Flynn, and I represent the Unlearning Racism Lab. I really enjoyed my experience with the dialogue process. I was amazed that a topic described in a few words could blossom into such rich content and learning for all participants. How very powerful it is to practice the art of listening to one another and then giving space to pause before responding to a new thought. The build from one person's comment to the next was magical. As I look at dialogue in education through the lens of the Unlearning Racism Lab, I can see the benefits of a teacher putting down their PowerPoint slides and chalk and simply asking a pointed question regarding a current event. For example, those in Buffalo being shot and killed because of the color of their skin. Allowing students to share their thoughts and feelings about it could help expand their minds and cause a ripple effect that could change the world. Thank you.
I'm Ann Hunnix, and I'm from the Women in Leadership Lab. And I'm coming to you from Waunakee, Wisconsin in the US. For me, the pauses during the dialogue were the most revealing and surprising. Instead of just thinking of my next response, my brain expanded into more creative thinking. It was almost like an explosion, and it took me down new paths. I was free to explore in a safe and non-competitive and non-judgmental space. And for young people, I see that there's value in providing that safe space where they can learn to look beyond their assumptions and see the value of new and different ideas and see people as individuals with unique talents. So this kind of thinking is so important for the future of society and making sure that our young people are prepared to interact with each other. Being able to enter into open dialogue with people not like us is so important. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kan. From dialogue, creating common meaning, Samsun, Turkey. To me, in dialogue, we pour meaning into each other. As meaning flows, it changes the taste and it changes us. I find it such a powerful process. We share meaning between each person. Exchanging feelings and thoughts can create a type of circulation. And what comes first? Listening. We can place a spark of understanding each other's mind, and the silence we use make this meaning deeper. Our responses to each other become fabric woven in the silent meaning-making practice of dialogue. When we meet our students, if we look into their eyes while being ready to listen to them, they will open the door of their minds to send the message, oh, I'm ready to listen to you. Whatever you want to tell would deliver the key dialogue. So they can get out of the rigid frameworks of our minds. Children are our creative bridge to the future. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Susan. I'm a co-lead of the Democratizing Leadership Education Lab. And one of the goals of the lab is to build tools to bring leadership skills to all students in all schools. I'm an educator from Westchester, Pennsylvania, and today I'm zooming in from down the road from Silver Bay, New York. Our lab got really excited about the potential and our collaboration with the dialogue experiences. I work at a school that's used structures similar to this dialogue structure for a long time. In my own experience, being in authentic dialogue helps me and my students begin to articulate our own thoughts on different topics, to listen better to one another, and to lift up difficult or controversial ideas. Bringing the dialogue process to schools has the potential to create spaces for students to be seen and heard more fully, particularly those who may feel marginalized, we feel seen differently by peers and adults. When I asked a student about this, they lifted up that expressing ideas in a safe space can help students to think about how they are doing and hear how others are doing, and to know that they maybe aren't the only ones struggling in a particular area or with an idea. And to me, this work feels especially important after recent shootings in the United States. When I think about teaching leadership skills to students and to building leadership tools, I think about how this process has a listening for common meeting part. And this listening is an excellent transferable skill for running other meetings. Gives weight and recognize the values of all voices in a room, not just those who are loudest or most offensive. And listening for threads in the dialogue can help us elevate the bits and pieces that are brought up by a group and to summarize authentically where a group is and to help everyone be heard.
Hello, I'm Dr. Crystal Clay, and I am hailing from Bermuda. I'm proudly part of the Women in Leadership group, and particularly excited to have been a part of the dialogue process and understanding the power of silence. It enhanced my listening because I didn't feel the pressure to give an immediate response. The suspending judgment, it empowered me to be more authentic. And the organic evolution of the process enabled me to let go of any preconceived notions and trust the process. Ironically, I was more in control when I let go of control. The collective voice, it was transformative. There was a diversity of perspectives, backgrounds, experiences, but despite the many voices, it culminated into one collective voice. I can see this being so effective in education because it promotes curiosity, critical thinking. It supports diversity because every student has a voice. It offers a holistic approach to student well-being, creating psychologically safe spaces to share, and creates a collaborative learning environment. It empowers students to leverage their voice, thereby building confident young men and women that will carry them through life. Thank you.
Thank you, all the voices. And we are so honored to have shared your voices together. Now, we're going to take a little time to reflect as a community here. We can leave our view on speaker view. Can everybody hear me? Okay, so what are some reactions that we're having as we've listened to all these voices and about this model that we just shared on dialogue? Let's keep it open you can open your mic and we'll share.
Sounds like magic is happening.
It's pretty much like that. Yeah. What do you mean by that?
When magic happens, you don't know why it happened. You just take advantage of being honored for who you are
Mhm.
and feel very loved and a part of something bigger than you are.
Hmm. Yes. That's the magic part right there.
Mm.
Mhm. Thank you, Tsupi.
Yeah, and I would add that even though I've heard these comments before as we got ready for this session, I still heard some new ideas, some new thoughts came in. Just from that space being there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it keeps growing, right?
Yeah,
The gift that keeps on giving.
exactly.
What are some other thoughts?
In many ways, it was a bit of a healing process. It allowed us to have the freedom to be and to let go of old thoughts. And it was freeing,
Hmm.
it was healing.
It's kind of like what Helena alluded to this morning is about like receiving that power from the universe. It's such a potent quantum field that when you let yourself be in it, you feel more free because you're taking a lot of that energy right in.
Mm.
It's a lot of congruence with her presentation. Other thoughts and experiences. Anybody having an unusual experience right now that you're aware of?
Um, for me, it's not really an unusual experience, but the organization where I work, we use dialogue as a tool for behavior management in a process we call DNA, dialogue negotiation agreement. But I've come to learn that actually dialogue can be used for a lot of other purposes. It's really nice for me.
That's great. It sounds like you're in an educational sector too, right?
Yes, I am.
You're using behavior mod, chances are it's not for dogs and cats. Right, for humans. Thank you for sharing that, Julius. Great positive reinforcement that it's working elsewhere. Mhm. Any other comments on the experience of the workshop and just what you may be learning about how things might be applicable?
For me, I just found the pauses really interesting because usually if you're in a group setting, you hear one person after the other, so you don't really have the time to reflect on what the first person said. So just going through this experience, like when each speaker spoke, I was able to really think clearly on what, like how I felt regarding that speaker. And I think, yeah, that was just like amazing to have this little time in between. Yeah.
For sharing that, Alvina. Well, Robert, I'll let you carry on with another question.
Thank you, Sue. While we were looking for your reaction, maybe from an emotional level about what you just witnessed, but also in part experienced some components of dialogue, think now about how you could envision the application of it. And we're just going to make this a little more open-ended in a more brainstorming model. We're not doing the dialogue per se either, but just what could you see, either suggestions for the education lab or something you might envision taking away to practice or do yourself?
I think it would be really interesting with students to use this to give them an opportunity if they're going to make decisions about how they're going to learn or kind of self-govern. It might be really interesting to use it for gathering ideas on how they could self-govern or self-organize their educational material.
one of the things we had talked about in the middle high school level is that the context of the topic, which is always the first thing to settle on for a dialogue, has to be really age appropriate too. And what we discovered among ourselves in the dialogues we've run is that we have longer lives of experience. And so a shorter life of experience may have a different experience using the dialogue model. So it's not I'm not directing anything here. I'm just making a point about what is the context in which somebody might experience this.
I think it would help in peer mediation as students find a way to use this dialogue to help them to negotiate conflict in a positive way and to have productive conversations using the power of silence, suspending judgment, and the other principles to really hear each other without in a safe space without judgment.
So we're heading to the end of our segment, and I wanted to invite you all to continue the exploration of dialogue with our journey and attend an open workshop. If you would send an email or call me, I'll collect the names who's interested, and we'll communicate back when those open dialogues would occur. We're thinking maybe once a month as we have our own Fridays. But real fast, I wanted to welcome Zoe Robertson today. We didn't hear from you, that's fine. But a strange thing happened yesterday. She had written to me out of the blue. Zoe's an undergraduate research assistant at Yale University. And she wrote to me yesterday, said, I knew that you participated in an event a couple years ago that has some of the same themes around what we're doing in dialogue. And she wanted to interview me to talk more about my experience then. And I quickly realized the experience I had was so much like this that she had to join us today, which she did. So thank you, Zoe, and I look forward to our conversation coming up. So with that, thank you for a rich discussion.